segment right there, that music from the old NBC NFL promos that they would have and such. My next guest took over my old beat once upon a time. I used to cover a growing sport for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, high school hockey, which I know doesn't have much of a appeal around here, but it was something I was very passionate about. When I went to a full-time job at another newspaper, Chris Adamski took over for me. Now look at us. I've got my own show. You've got an NFL beat. That's doing pretty good, Chris Adamski. You don't only have an NFL beat, you've got the Steelers beat for Triblive.com. And so I want to ask you the question that everybody really wants to know who follows the NFL. Was James Harrison a clubhouse lawyer for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year?
I mean, I can tell you this, that his teammates, I mean, you saw, I mean, I'm sure you saw it, everybody saw what a lot of them were saying. And, you know, whether you're talking to them privately or publicly, you know, they stand behind that, and they, you know, that's legitimate that they, you know, I'll try to be as fair as I can to James, but, you know, they stand behind everything they say, and they say it's true, and there was definite, I don't know if animosity is the right word, but they certainly weren't sad to see him go. It wasn't a coincidence that he was cut, that there wasn't any, you know, usually you see a long-time veteran get cut or retire or whatever, get traded even, sign somewhere else, they say, oh, goodbye, good luck, you know, great being your teammate for so many years. There was none of that, and that wasn't a coincidence why. You know, you can see, I'm sure Harrison was frustrated with his lack of playing time. You know, maybe he was told things, but, you know, this is the NFL, and he's not the first person to, you know, lose his job or lose a role or get demoted or not have materialized that way. You know, a combination of TJ Watt was probably better than maybe he was expected right away. Nobody got hurt at his position, and there wasn't ever a role for him. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff is coming out. I mean, you know, trust me, even privately, a lot of these guys are saying things that corroborate a lot of it. So, you know, James wanted out. He publicly admitted he wanted to be asked to be cut. And so he kind of tried to make life miserable for everybody else. I mean, that seems pretty apparent.
Well, have you seen, I know right before this show came on at about 11:58, I get a tweet from Bleacher Report that says that James Harrison has made a statement and that he didn't sign with the Steelers this year to sit on the bench and all this. Have you had a chance, Chris Adamski, Steelers beat reporter for Triblive.com, to look at that statement, and what are your thoughts if you have?
Yeah, I read it once. Yeah, I mean, it was actually came right when we were at practice, and you know, then we had there was post-practice availability and everything. So I haven't had a chance to really, you know, break it down or whatever for what it's worth. You know, I like I said, he admits that he asked for release multiple times. You know, I don't doubt. I mean, there's usually gray area in a lot of these things. You know, there are other players that say the same sort of things, that they kind of kept in the dark to the coaches about what their role is, things like that. That sometimes is a source of frustration for a lot of Steelers players. Whether or not that's you know, wrong by the coaches or not. I mean, they have the, you know, they're the bosses. They tell you to be prepared, whatever it is. And I think some players would like to be more, you know, aware, better communication. So I mean, I'm trying to be as fair as I can here, Steve. I know one player said to me though, you know, you notice in Harrison's statement, he said at one point what he does this for. He says, I do this. He says, the first thing he mentions is for myself. Mm-hmm. He says, my family, my teammates. You know, he put himself first. And like I said, there are definitely some Steelers players that sort of chuckle at that. And yes, I mean, that's what it says it all about from their perspective. That, you know, he puts himself first. And you know, I think that's kind of the general feeling from his teammates. And I don't know when. I'm still trying to kind of get a handle on when exactly the time turned, or if it did start, if this is the way he was for years and years. You know, you know, I'll admit it myself. I get speak from all reporters, but you know, certainly the way people have written things and said things or broadcast things, that is kind of, you know, is surprising. You know, we kind of, I mean, James has always been a surly guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a very, you know, gregarious, likable guy in terms of his personality. He lives off intimidation. But, you know, I always felt like his teammates respected his work ethic and respected what he kind of surprised me on that end. But there's definitely legitimate animosity for him from.
All right. Well, we're talking to Chris Adamski of Triblive.com. Are you cooking in the background? I've got to ask you. Yeah, there seems to be like pots and pans going on in the background, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was walking for a while. I apologize.
No.
It's windy.
Chris Adamski, I understand. Hey, you got to be right there by a river. Of course, it's windy and all that. But if you can, hey, get inside. That's what they build these structures for, to keep the wind off of you, like Mike Nesmith once famously said. Anyway, my friend Chris Adamski is a Steelers beat reporter. Yes. There we go. Yeah, you can hear me in the back right there. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned James Harrison as a surly guy. He wouldn't be the only linebacker on that team that had that reputation. Greg Lloyd, Joey Porter even to a certain extent. Yeah, it's about intimidation. But I wanted to ask you, do you think James Harrison can help the New England Patriots?
It's interesting. I mean, we saw what Harrison did. I mean, Harrison played 40 snaps, right? The game that he played the most in was the Kansas City game, and he had a factor in that game. That wasn't the only time he got pressure. He altered sort of how play there. And lo and behold, the Patriots have likely projected, sure, they could play New England or could play Kansas City in their first playoff game. Listen, let's put it this way: the Steelers had judged him to be fifth on their depth chart amongst their outside linebackers, behind T.J. Watt, Bud Dupree, Arthur Moats, and Anthony Chickillo. Okay, Anthony Chickillo, has potential. He was 6th round pick a couple years ago, but that's where he stood. And whatever it is about him being, whatever in the locker room, if he was good enough to play above one of those four, he would have been playing above one of those four, and he was fifth amongst those four, of those five. So that kind of shows where he was in the Steelers depth chart. Now, we've seen him, and we saw that flash against Kansas City. He played, maybe 8 or 9 snaps and seeing him there. But apparently the Patriots have a need at pass rush right now. Some injuries hanged up there at the edge rusher spot. So if you have that, and you don't have any other options, take a shot. I think he still gets there. If he played the entire game, you give him 50 snaps. I don't know if he last 50 snaps, but I'm just saying, 50 snaps sample size, yeah, I think he probably, maybe not get a sack per se, but he definitely get some pressure on the opposing quarterback. I think he still can at this age, yes.
Do you find, oftentimes teams, especially with linemen, and I find backup quarterbacks that are cut, teams that are in the same division will oftentimes pick them up, and the idea is that they will pick their brain about the other team's offense, defense, whatever. Do you think that James Harrison could provide that for the New England Patriots, or are we talking about basically by now, especially pass rusher, and what does he really know about tendencies? Do you think Harrison can help out the Patriots by knowing the Steelers' playbook is the question I'm asking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, I don't think I'm sure, but I'm sure the Patriots are going to try. They're going to pick his brain. They're going to ask questions. I mean, he's with the Steelers for a long time. He knows the offense. I'm sure he's going to be willing to give up the information he does have. I don't know how much, especially talking to a lot of current players, or players in general, that, everybody has game film. Everybody has game film from all these angles. Everybody watches the game film, a dozen times a week. If you're upcoming opponent, you see every play, you watch it over and over, you look for tendencies. A lot of people pay to do that. So I don't know how much really, it would be naive to take the Steelers in the 4 weeks that it would be between he was cut and he would play against the Steelers, that the Steelers wouldn't change up their, signals and calls and things like that. So, the Patriots going to try, and then maybe there's something small there, but he's not the first guy in the world to change teams in the middle of the season. Just last week, the Steelers cut a guy. It was off his practice squad. I get it. He didn't play 15 years like James Harrison did, but Jake Rogers, a practice squad offensive lineman, was cut by the Steelers and signed by the Texans last week, okay? Mm-hmm. So I guarantee you, Bill O'Brien, the Texans staff, said, hey, what can you help us about the Steelers? And Jake Rogers, being a young guy, looking to, earn a job, impress his new people, new bosses, surely told him what he knew, and the Steelers won by 27 points. I don't know how much it's really going to make a difference in a game, but I'm sure the Patriots will try.
Well, Chris Chris Adamski of Triblive.com, Steelers beat writer. I have made a determination, my opinion. I think that Mike Tomlin's greatest fear is that his team will grow old. And this is what I noticed. You know, James Harrison famously did play for the Cincinnati Bengals for a season when he was 35. And it seems to me, I noticed this especially years ago with Charlie Batch, where Charlie hadn't really done anything to lose his job as the backup quarterback. But boy, did they try to ease him out, and eventually did by the time he had about 39 or 40 years old and such. But, you know, you remember the Dennis Dixons, the Byron Leftwiches that were brought in and such, instead of allowing a veteran and a good veteran, you know, a team player, to sort of continue to be a number 2 quarterback, that he hadn't really done anything to lose that job. One could also wonder, was Hines Ward, did he have some football left in him? Did Brett Kiesel? Harrison isn't the only veteran that maybe has left the Steelers possibly too early. Do you see Tomlin possibly greasing the skids for any of his veterans with the fear of, the last thing in the world I want is an old team?
Yeah, you know, you've seen examples kind of on both sides. I mean, they forced out, essentially, forced out is probably a strong term, but they told Troy, you know, sorry, thanks to everything, you can't play anymore. You know, they told Hines that, but everybody could tell with Hines forward at the end there. You know, and maybe they've learned some lessons that defense, you know, around 2012, 2013 was getting old. We still had, you know, Farrier in 2012 and Casey Hampton and those guys toward the end there were getting long in the tooth, and Ike Taylor, maybe they held on to them a little bit too long. You know, but we haven't seen a guy get cut in season before. All these veterans that have won Super Bowls, and so that kind of tells you something. And that whether or not, you know, listen, cutting James Harrison, judging by their depth chart, you know, you could make the argument they were wrong if you want to. But like I said, he was the 5th outside linebacker. He didn't play special teams. They needed a roster spot. If that was, you know, undrafted rookie, you know, whoever with the same, you know, skill set as James Harrison at age 39, he would have been cut a long time ago. So they kept him around sort of longer than maybe in that sense they needed to or they should have. So he forced his way out. So, you know, I'm sure that Mike Tomlin's sensitive to that because, like I said, that defense got old in a hurry about 5 years ago. And now they completely turn it around pretty much to be a kind of a young defense, or definitely a young defense right now. So to their credit. But so I think he's watching out for that. But I think in this case, you know, James Harrison was never going to be the starter. He was always going to be a backup or relief pitcher, as they say. And they had never used him in that role, really. And
I guess we'll see with how he plays for the New England Patriots, if that was the wise decision, or if he starts making big sacks in the playoffs, then Mike Tomlin might have some answering to do if he didn't grease the skids even 5 years ago, a little too early for James Harrison. Anyway, Chris Adamski, tell me also, in the Steelers locker room, how did they take the loss to the Patriots?
After the game, it was definitely, it's strange because, you know, what, Marky, they haven't had a loss all year. So, I mean, not all year, but I mean, they've had a loss since September, or it was October 1st to be technical, but other than that, so it's almost kind of weird for even us to remember what the post-game locker room is after a loss period. But they put a lot of stock in that game. I mean, they definitely pushed they wanted to beat New England. I think, to be honest with you, part of this whole backlash to James Harrison is that the Patriots are still there, you know, I don't say in their head maybe, but in their head and so much to their point of emphasis. If he went to the Patriots, if he would have signed with the Rams, you know, a good team in the NFC, and you know, or whatever, or even heck, you know, Jacksonville or whatever. But the fact that the Patriots are the Steelers, you know, it's their white whale, something they haven't accomplished yet, really, and so that game, especially the way it happened, was devastating for him. But I'll tell you this, truth is that by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the locker room, it was back to being loose and happy or whatever. So if it was a gut punch at the time, like it was for fans and everything, and the way that game went down, and who did you lose to, that would be a gut punch. But by that Wednesday, it was pretty much fast, and they were back to being their fitness real loose, kind of you know, fun themselves, I guess.
So Chris Adamski, beat writer of the Steelers for Triblive.com. Final question I got for you, my old friend, is, Chris, who goes to the Super Bowl out of the AFC?
I don't think I learned my lesson, but I picked the Steelers last year to beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, and they maybe looked foolish. So I vowed to myself then that until the Steelers in particular beat the Patriots, in my mind, they're never ever going to beat them. And I know they would have had to beat if a replay review didn't feel another way in the regular season. Maybe I'd feel different. I don't know, but even then, I don't know. Until the Steelers beat the Patriots in the playoffs, beat Tom Brady in the playoffs, win a game in Foxborough against Tom Brady, things they haven't done. I'm at the default to the Patriots will beat the Steelers. So is there anybody else that can beat the Patriots or beat the Steelers? I know Jacksonville's kind of dangerous, but I don't think Blake Bortles is the answer. You guy you want to ride with, per se, if you're going to make a prediction. So I got to go to New England.
I love the objectivity. I love the professionalism. I love it, Chris Adamski of Triblive.com, the Steelers beat writer. And I also love the fact that no matter what you say, it's not going to have a single impact on who goes to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. Don't feel bad about last year either. Mark Malone was on this show, and he's a sports talk show host at 7 o'clock on this station, and he picked the Steelers to beat the Patriots last year as well on the Patriots' run to the 5th Super Bowl title. Chris Adamski, thank you for joining with us. Let's do this again in the playoffs, but now I've got breaking news. Ty Chandler will be the starting running back for the Tennessee Volunteers next season, and I'm going to tell you why after this. Did you like that lead?
I did. I didn't get an answer to a chance to what I was going to say. I was really excited.
Yes, John Kelly, who is their starting running back this year, just declared for the NFL draft. So that's how that goes and all that. So yes, and Chandler's actually pretty decent. He was a decent freshman and all that. Could also show me my here the what do we got here? This is the promo that I have. I don't know if it's the Eagles and the Cowboys. We're going to air that game, so I have this here that I made up. Yeah, we carry the Jason Witten is from the next town over, so we carry the Cowboys games. Anyway, let's see here. Chris, it's good to talk to you again. Thank you.
You too, man. Have a good New Year.
You too. Bye.
Firestone Destination Tires take you anywhere you want to go.
Designed to be responsive and with solid traction.